I want to start by defining for my beloved audience a new reality. Trust me when I tell you, once everyone stops living in the past and accepts the way things are, the better the understanding and ability to rationally fight for your best interests will be. The Uniparty versus the America First Party. It's time Americans wake up to reality in today's preamble. After becoming the Senate Majority Leader, South Dakota Senator John Thune said the following.
As you know, the Senate has an advise and consent role under the Constitution, so we will do everything we can to process his noms quickly, get them installed in their position so they can begin to implement his agenda.
Yeah, his would be Trump's. One crucial nomination is Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. This nominee will be tasked with cleaning up that den of leftist, partisan, and corrupt vipers who have turned their backs on the Constitution and the rule of law in favor of left-wing politics. But it appears that some Republicans are determined to prevent the Gaetz nomination. As reported by left-wing biased outlets, allegations against Matt Gaetz were investigated by the aforementioned partisan DOJ. Not even they could find any cause to charge Gaetz with a crime. But the left-wing extremists in the Democrat-controlled House, determined to weaponize government against their political opposition, started their own so-called investigation in the House Ethics Committee. But the minute Gaetz resigned from Congress, that investigation was moot, as they don't have any jurisdiction outside of the House. The investigation is over. But Republicans like John Cornyn want to use the Democrats' work product, likely packed with innuendo and partisan smears, perhaps as justification for stopping the Gaetz nomination. This is counter to what Senator Thune promised America.
On the issue of vetting, though, how critical is it then to have access to what the House Ethics Committee has found in their investigation?
I think there should not be any limitation on the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation, including whatever the House Ethics Committee has generated.
So you want to see it?
Absolutely.
Cornyn has a long history of working with a party that just ushered in millions of unvetted illegal aliens, caused massive inflation on this country, unleashed criminals onto our streets, and then tried to take away your guns so you couldn't defend yourself. Am I causing division by letting you know about Republicans who are already working to thwart the America First agenda? Would some of you prefer not knowing? Some of you might be saying, well, it's like John Thune said, the Senate does have an advise and consent role. Well, let's see how they use that role when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put up their nominees for approval. Now, the left-wing cabal that is the Biden government appointed Sam Brighton for the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Spent Fuel and Waste Disposition in the Department of Energy. Not many in the GOP Senate objected because presidents deserve deference in their appointees, they said. Presidents not named Trump, according to some senators, apparently. Sam Brighton would go on to be arrested for stealing women's clothing off the conveyor belts at airports. The fact that the man wears dresses and was pictured with men dressed in leather dog outfits might have sent some red flags up for, most people, but not for some intrepid Republican senators bending over backwards for their good friends, the Democrat Party and the Biden government. In this same vein, the Wizards of Smart senators of the GOP, namely Murkowski and Collins, saw no issue with confirming Rachel Levine, another man pretending to be a woman, as the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services at HHS. Dr. Levine was and has been an advocate for activities many call child abuse, the chemical castration and hormone blockers for children who are too young to make educated choices for themselves.
As a pediatrician, when it comes to making sure kids are healthy and happy, I know how important care that affirms someone's true identity can be.
Some GOP senators had no issues confirming this nominee, perfectly normal in their minds. But what is abnormal for these GOP senators is a conservative lawyer who's been a vocal critic of government corruption and an advocate for our people, pledging to collar big, unaccountable government. To these few GOP senators, Gaetz is the freak, apparently. Then there's Alejandro Mayorkas, who facilitated the largest criminal operation undertaken by the U.S. government in our history. The importation of millions of unvetted illegal aliens from 168 countries, a population that included gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. This lawless action led to our government losing 325,000 illegal alien children feared by the DHS Inspector General to be lost to sex slavery, forced labor, and other atrocities. Mayorkas was blessed by GOP senators, names like Murkowski, Romney, and Capito. To add insult to injury, when the House impeached the lawless Mayorkas for the first time in history, the Senate decided there would be no trial. GOP senators rolled over under the pro-Democrat leadership of Mitch McConnell, sat on their hands and did nothing. I mean, oppose a Democrat? What Republican senator ever heard of such a thing? You know, I could go on, but you get the idea. It seems the only times the old GOP grows a backbone is when they rise up to oppose conservatives. Left-wing extremists are not at all offensive to the old GOP. That was proven when Barack Obama was occupying the White House. Obama openly violated the U.S. Constitution with recess appointments to staff the National Labor Relations Board. Obama made recess appointments even though the Congress was still in a pro forma session. Obama broke our laws, and McConnell and his gobsmacked old GOP did nothing to stop him. They even voted to fund his illegal appointments. But as you know, when children get away with doing wrong, they keep on doing wrong. Barack Obama created a whole new agency outside of his constitutional authority. Obama created the left-wing lunacy that is the Consumer Financial Protection Board. It was or bureau, I should say. It was an agency that was as stupidly named as the Affordable Care Act. This agency targets businesses, imposing onerous regulations that pad the pockets of bureaucrats and robs capital from the private sector. Obama's breach of our mutual compact wasn't opposed by these so-called Republican senators. Quite the contrary. They ended up voting to fund it, the same way these few GOP fossils have been voting for this massive overspending agenda of the Democrats for 12 of the last 16 years. Now, I call them fossils not because of their age, but because their ideas of surrendering to petulant leftists as old as time itself. And these Republican remnants are navel-gazing about a rumored plan that says President Trump, in keeping with Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3 of the Constitution, would be able to get his cabinet in place through lawful recess appointments, unlike Obama's lawlessness. So why is Obama's shredding of the Constitution okay with these relic Republicans, but Trump's compliance with the Constitution, well, that's out of bounds? They have been called bureaucrats, rhinos, pro-Democrat Republicans. They've been called ineffective. And most recently, they've simply been regarded as never-Trumpers in the Uniparty. Their numbers are dwindling, thank God. But they are determined to claw their way back into power, to defeat conservatism and empower their good Democrat friends. The never-Trump Republicans like to talk a big game. They wander around their various states pledging conservatism and fidelity to the Constitution. But when they get to the Hill, they just lock arms with leftist Democrats. They are just like those politicians from the 1974 movie Blazing Saddles. Remember this?
Holy underwear! Sheriff murdered, innocent women and children blown to bits. We've got to protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately. Immediately. Harumph, 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 harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Give the governor harumph. Harumph!
And that's all these GOP relics do, right? Is harumph when it comes to the America First agenda. But when it comes time to vote, they are nearly always in the Democrat socialist corner. So in case you're keeping track at home, the last vestiges of the old Surrender Caucus GOP have a track record of turning a blind eye to Democrat illegality, idiocy, and lack of qualifications, while also opposing lawful constitutional conservatism put forth by conservatives and the America First coalition. For those of you pretending that we have a Republican and Democrat two-party system, you are only deluding yourself. As you know, both sides of the new divide in this country are populated with Republicans and Democrats. The new divide is good versus evil, America first versus America last. I'm not dividing the Republicans. Those in the GOP who have more in common with Democrats than they do with America First conservatives, they are doing that. What you need to know is who is on your side and who is on the side of the uniparty. That way you can identify who's not looking out for you and work to vote them out. You know, folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.